A doctor mistakenly injects sperm for artificial insemination into a college girl's uterus, resulting in an unexpected pregnancy for the virgin Juana. The owner of the sperm is Gabriel, the hottest and richest man in the area. As the CEO of a giant beer company, Gabriel suffered from cancer at the peak of his career. Since his parents had passed away early, Gabriel shouldered the important task of carrying on the family line. So he left a potent sperm sample before his surgery. It was Gabriel's last chance to become a father. Fortunately, Gabriel's anti-cancer operation is successful and he has recovered. He can't wait to take the hand of his girlfriend who he has been in love with for 3 years and walk down the aisle. But the young and beautiful Paula has no desire to give birth or become a stay-at-home mom. As a hot supermodel, Paula craves the spotlight and fame. Not to mention, egg retrieval is too painful for Paula to bear. In contrast, Gabriel, who has survived cancer, is desperate to have a child of his own. Gabriel finds a woman who is willing to donate her eggs and tries to fulfill his dream of becoming a father through surrogacy. Coincidentally, on the same day the surrogate mother undergoes surgery, Juana comes to the same hospital for a medical checkup. 2 careless nurses bump into each other and drop the patient's file. In the chaos, Juana's file and that of the surrogate mother get swapped. The nurses mistakenly lead Juana to the doctor's office where artificial insemination surgeries are performed. In a rush to get to another surgery, the doctor injects Gabriel's sample into her uterus without checking her identity. Until the surrogate mother asks about the precautions of artificial insemination, the nurse realizes that there is a mistake. But it is too late. The nurse hurriedly informs the doctor about it. But no one wants to be held responsible for such a big medical accident, so they decide to delete Juana's file and keep it a secret. Then the doctor comes to the surrogate mother's room, pretending everything's fine. He takes a sperm sample from a random man and injects it into her. When it is over, the doctor calls Gabriel to tell him that the surrogate mother is pregnant. The steady Gabriel is so excited that he hugs and kisses his wife. In 9 months, he will be able to fulfill his wish of becoming a father. But Paula's mood is rather delicate. She can only force a smile to cope with Gabriel's enthusiasm. In order to avoid continuing the conversation, Paula leaves, citing a magazine shoot as her excuse. She finds her best friend Camila to pour out her heart. She's afraid that this child, who has no blood ties to her, will become a time bomb for her marriage. Camila advises her to take it easy. At least she could become a mom without any pain. She agreed to Gabriel's surrogacy with another woman in order to keep her career. What's done is done. It's too late to regret it. Little did she know that her husband's child is growing in the womb of a college girl. And that girl is about to have a deep bond with Gabriel. A few weeks after her checkup, Juana comes to the hospital to get her report. Unexpectedly, the nurse congratulates her and says she's pregnant. Juana thinks this is ridiculous. She tells the nurse categorically that the hospital must have made a mistake. Because she is still a virgin. How could she be pregnant? She doesn't take it seriously, just asks the nurse to recheck and leaves. Soon after, on the bus, she gets another call from the hospital. The nurse says with 100% certainty that the test results are correct. You are pregnant. Recalling her recent fatigue and nausea, a panic struck Juana. She gets off the bus and goes to the pharmacy to buy a pregnancy test. Juana quickly runs to the bathroom of a nearby beer company to take the test. When 2 red lines show up, which means it's positive, Juana feels like the sky is falling. At the same time, Gabriel receives a call from the hospital. The doctor says that the surrogate mother was rushed to the hospital with abdominal pains. But in the end, the baby in her womb could not be saved. Gabriel thinks he'll never have a child in his life. He cries bitterly and runs out of the office to get some air. Unbeknownst to him, it wasn't his child that the surrogate mother lost anyway. Woman anxiously climbs to the top floor and dashes to the edge of the rooftop. She is devastated by her pregnancy, fearing blame and scorn from her family and classmates. Just as she is about to fall, a man rushes out and pulls her to the back. Juana scolds him for meddling in her business, not realizing that he is the father of her child. Seeing her struggling to breathe, Gabriel gently holds her in his arms and comforts her. Just as she's soaking up the feeling of security he's giving off, Gabriel pushes her away. Slightly embarrassed, she leaves the roof with a thank you. While she is resting at home, her best friend Daniela awakens her. Daniela says that the beer company she works for is celebrating its anniversary tonight. Since Juana is really good at photography, Daniela asks her to take some photos for the company's publicity. Juana is not in the mood to get involved. But after Daniela's repeated pleas, she can only say yes. At night, Juana rides her scooter to the anniversary party. But the brakes suddenly fail. Juana screams in terror and can't stop. At that moment of crisis, Gabriel springs out and picks her up. To his surprise, she is the girl he saved from the roof yesterday. Juana is embarrassed and explains that she is the photographer for the celebration. The security guards suspect that she is up to no good and want to hold her. Gabriel fears it might upset Juana again. While asking the guard to take Juana's scooter to be repaired, Gabriel leads Juana into the ballroom. Juana quickly pulls herself together and throws herself into the shooting work. David, a marketing executive, falls in love with her at first sight. He asks her friends about her. David then approaches her and communicates with her. Now Juana learns that Gabriel is the owner of the largest brewery in the region and is one of the most important people in Mexico. Gabriel is a gentleman in life, but he's ruthless in business. He also has a hot supermodel wife by his side. The couple looks so well-matched and affectionate. Juana somehow feels lost inside. She goes upstairs to the warehouse alone to change the memory card for her camera. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out, startling her. Turns out the murderer is Gabriel's father-in-law, Rogelio. Ever since Gabriel and Paula started dating, her father and brother were put to work for Gabriel's company. But the ambitious father and son weren't satisfied. They wanted more. In order to take over Gabriel's company, they've been secretly buying up shares of the company. When Gabriel's best friend Francisco finds out, he tries to tell him about it. However, he is interrupted by Gabriel's father-in-law. After making an excuse to drive Gabriel away, Rogelio coerces Francisco to go to the garden with him. He threatens to keep it a secret, but Francisco refuses. During the argument, Rogelio accidentally pulls the trigger. The shot is heard by Juana upstairs. As she moves fearfully towards the door, Rogelio has already dragged the body away, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. When Juana sees this, she realizes something is wrong and runs to the ballroom for help. As the first person in sight, Gabriel is dragged by her to the scene of the crime. But Rogelio had just cleaned the blood off the boards. Juana explains incoherently that there's been a murder. Apparently Gabriel doesn't believe her. After all, everything looks normal here. Just as Juana is doubting herself, she finds pieces of a vase on the board. She tries to prove that a conflict had just broken out. But Gabriel has no interest in listening to her reasoning. His clients are waiting for him to socialize. He thinks Juana broke the vase and lied to him to avoid accountability. He says in a bad tone that her photography work is over and she can leave. Juana is furious and frustrated. She recognizes Gabriel as a rude and arrogant man, losing all the goodwill she had for him. To comfort her, her best friend takes her home. Juana tells her all about her pregnancy and her confusion. But they couldn't understand how a virgin could get pregnant. Daniela advises her to tell her family about the situation and work together to find a solution. The next morning, Juana calls a meeting with her grandma, mom and uncle. She nervously says she's pregnant and emphasizes that she hasn't had intercourse with any man. But these words sound like lies to the family. No one can believe that a virgin could be pregnant for no reason. Is Daniela the Virgin Mary? Her family falls into despair, believing that there must be a curse on the family. Juana's grandmother was abandoned by her grandfather after giving birth to her mother and uncle. Juana's mother was a hopeless romantic. She gave birth to Juana when she was 16, out of wedlock. But she didn't even know who Juana's father was. Now she's 36, yet she's not as mature as her daughter, and she's even in love with a married man. Unfortunately, the married man's daughters catch them in the act. The girls go to her door and humiliate her so badly that the neighbors look down on her. The man's wife calls her and scolds her, asking her to break up with him. Juana's uncle was dumped by his partner and became a single father. Juana grew up in such a complicated environment. That's why she was determined from a young age not to have any intimacy with any man until she was married, even if everyone laughed at her for being a spinster. Her grandmother and mother saw Juana as the only hope for the family. They were overjoyed when they learned that she had enrolled in college. Unexpectedly, Juana has actually embarked on the same emotionally bumpy road as them. Emotions of breakdown and accusation are all flooding towards Juana. Juana can't take it anymore. She packs her bags and runs away from home in secret. She goes to her best friend, Daniela, and begs her to take her in. Daniela wants to take her back to her home. But Juana's family would definitely find her there. Juana just needs a place where she can think about her recent events without being disturbed. Daniela has no other choice. After work, she sneaks Juana into her office and lets her rest there. Meanwhile, Gabriel is in the same state of agony as Juana, ever since he learned that his last sperm sample had been used up and that he would never be a father. He's been in a deep state of limbo. Gabriel feels like a sinner to his family. His father taught him that the honor of the family was inextricably linked to the growth of the company. Their wealth had been built through generations of hard work. But as the only son, he fails to inherit the family bloodline. When he is at his most desperate, Paula not only doesn't sympathize with him, she doesn't understand his dreams. She says what he's lost isn't a child, it's an embryo, a cell. There is no need to grieve. Gabriel is heartbroken. He says that if she doesn't have the same dreams as he does, then divorce is in order. Paula puts on perfume and a silk nightgown, waiting for her husband to come to bed. And then, it's the housekeeper who meets her in all her glamour. The housekeeper informs her not to wait any longer because her husband has moved to the second bedroom. Paula realizes that her husband really wants to divorce her. The next day, Paula goes to her best friend to discuss a solution. She never wanted children in the first place. The only reason she agreed to be Gabriel's surrogate was to please him. Now Gabriel's baby is gone, which suits her just fine. Besides, her career is on the upswing. Without Gabriel's money and fame, she can hardly make it to the top of the supermodeling world. Camila comforts her and tells her not to panic. At least Gabriel's bank card is still in her hands. As long as she doesn't agree to divorce him, she can rightfully enjoy his connections and funds. Gabriel is still grieving over having no heir, unaware of her machinations against him. When he takes a walk in the front yard, he sees Juana's repaired motorcycle. Unconsciously, memories of all the accidental encounters with Juana come back to his mind, and his mood lightens up as a result. So he returns to the office to deal with his work. Little did he expect to run into Juana, who had stayed here. Her furtive hiding makes Gabriel think that the company has been burglarized. Just as he dials the police, Juana storms out, claiming it's all a misunderstanding. In order to dispel his doubts, Juana confesses that she is pregnant and came here to avoid her family. This touches Gabriel, who values children very much. Seeing Juana's disappointment, Gabriel allows her to stay at his company for the night and takes the initiative to show her around the company. Then the two of them go to the kitchen and cook a meal together. Perhaps the vibe is too cozy. Gabriel confesses that he had cancer, which made him infertile. Juana reveals that although she's pregnant, she doesn't even know who the father is. The accident not only shattered her relationship with her family, but also hindered her education. In order to go to college, Juana worked part-time for 2 years to save enough money to pay for her education. But now the pregnancy could cost her everything. At this emotional point, Juana leaves the table with tears in her eyes, hoping to maintain a bit of dignity in front of him. To her surprise, Gabriel comes after her. He gives her a piece of chocolate as a consolation. This childish trick makes Juana break into a smile through her tears. In the silent night, two individuals of different genders, who were barely acquainted with each other at first, have exchanged the biggest secrets of their lives. However, they remain unaware that the very same matter is plaguing both of them. The married CEO is being charmed by the pregnant girl he has just met. Looking at her sweet, sleepy face, Gabriel's worries dissipate a little. However, it's not a one-sided attraction. Next morning, Juana ogles the sleeping man amorously, completely smitten. Sleep-feigning Gabriel can't hold back and asks her to stay. He grabs her luggage, saying that if she wants to avoid her family, she can continue to live in his company. Juana can hardly resist his tenderness. Unbeknownst to them, the baby in Juana's womb is their own flesh and blood. Juana returns to the university with glee, only to be caught by her mother, Jenny. Jenny apologizes to her pregnant daughter for blaming her. As Juana's frustration fades away, she reveals her suspicions about her pregnancy as a virgin. She suspects that the doctor did something to cause her to have a baby. Because the date of her pregnancy coincided with the date of her medical checkup, Jenny immediately takes her to the hospital to settle the score. On seeing them, the nurse who made the mistake feels guilty and takes to her heels at once. Unfortunately, the downstairs exit is unlocked. Under the pressure of mother and daughter, the nurse has to confess that she has committed medical malpractice. She mixed up the surrogate mother's file with Juana's. As a result, the sperm that was supposed to be injected into the surrogate mother was injected into Juana's uterus. Juana and Jenny feel like the sky is falling. Absurdly, not only does the nurse show no remorse, she even induces Juana to give birth to the baby, because the sperm donor is incapable of bearing children. That's why he paid a lot of money to rent a womb. The baby in Juana's womb will be the only child he will ever have. That man would do anything for the baby inside her. Jenny is fuming with anger. She's a virgin who's never even been in love. How could she give birth to a stranger for money? Juana struggles to calm down and asks for the sperm donor's information. But the nurse refuses to answer because it's hospital confidentiality, and simply reveals that it's a rich and powerful man. Mother is furious and tries to call the police, but Juana stops her. She doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. Juana locks herself in her room, crying. Her studies, her dreams might have been ruined by her unwanted pregnancy. While she is grieving, Her friend Daniela calls and asks her to send the photos she took for the beer company at their anniversary party. Juana gets herself together and comes to Gabriel's office to deliver the photos. The attentive Gabriel notices her red, swollen eyes and asks her what's wrong. Juana doesn't know how to explain everything. Gabriel had wanted to meet Juana on purpose to get the photos. After realizing that she is in a bad mood, he drags her to the entrance of the company. He ditches his limousine and bodyguards, puts his long legs on Juana's scooter. The two of them, like wild horses breaking free from the reins, ride it away. Unbeknownst to them, this ambiguous scene has been witnessed by the employees. Since Gabriel is taking Juana for a ride on a hill, he doesn't get a call from his wife. This makes Paula feel uneasy, especially after noticing that he hasn't been home all night. Paula feels that her marriage is really on the rocks. Worried that her husband is really going to break up with her, Paula wants to rush to the office to confront him. Camila stops her and reminds her that she has a charity event to attend later. And talking to her husband in her current agitated state would only add fuel to the tense relationship. Paula has to calm down and follow her mother to the orphanage to attend the charity party. As she stares at the rows of orphans on the stage, a bold idea pops into her head. If Gabriel insists on separating from her because they don't have a child, why doesn't she adopt a child? In this way, she can bind her husband, can't she? Paula goes to the father and tells him about Gabriel's cancer and his inability to have children. She lies about wanting to be a mother and begs him to let her adopt a child. The father says the paperwork for adoption is very complicated. She needs Gabriel's permission to move forward. Paula would do anything to save her marriage. So even though Gabriel ignores her, she swallows her pride and goes to his company to find him. But the employee tells her that Gabriel spent the night with a girl. They just rode out of the office together. Paula is livid. She believes Gabriel's obsessed with separating from her because he's cheating on her. In sharp contrast to Paula, who is in despair, Gabriel is on cloud 9. He takes Juana to a cafe at the top of the hill. Gabriel is careful to ask her if she's worried about her pregnancy. Juana doesn't tell the truth about her wrongful insemination. She just says that her baby's father doesn't know it exists and she isn't going to tell him. This is unacceptable to Gabriel, who has always wanted to be a father. He persuades her that the father of her child has a right to know about it. Juana is unable to voice her troubles and doesn't want to argue with him. To change the subject, she plays a game with Gabriel. After shaking the Coke vigorously, just tap the top of the can gently. Then when you open it, the cola won't spurt out. This little bit of fun instantly dispels all the sorrows. The two of them open up to each other and become good friends. When he arrives home, Paula angrily questions him about his relationship with Juana. Gabriel explains that they're just friends. However, Paula doesn't believe there is pure friendship between a man and a woman at all. She confesses her love for Gabriel and asks him to sleep with her in her room. Gabriel refuses because he is not in the mood. The fact that he is unable to be a father is weighing on him like a pall. On the other side, the gynecology office is also in chaos. The nurse goes to the doctor who gave Juana the insemination and says that Juana knew about the medical malpractice. If Juana files a lawsuit against them, they'll probably go to jail. The doctor wants to tell the supervisor and ask for help. The nurse is afraid of taking legal responsibility and flees from the hospital, leaving the doctor to tell the supervisor everything. In fact, the supervisor was the one in charge of the artificial insemination procedure. But he was too busy that day, so he left it to the doctor. What a huge mess has been made. Even worse, they didn't know who Gabriel's sample had been injected into because the nurse had deleted Juana's file and ran away. After much deliberation, Dean thinks the only way to turn things around is to tell Gabriel about it. He's sure Gabriel will pull all the strings to find the pregnant girl for the sake of the baby, and will forgive them for the sake of the baby. That night, the supervisor comes to Gabriel's house and tells him. Gabriel almost breaks out crying with excitement. For the infertile Gabriel, this is probably his only chance to become a father in his life. He says he's willing to fulfill the girl's wishes, as long as she'll give birth to his child. But the supervisor says the girl was forced to conceive, and she could terminate the pregnancy at any time. So they have to find the girl as soon as possible. Gabriel immediately hires a good private investigator to start looking for signs of the girl who is carrying his child. Unexpectedly, the next morning, several police officers arrive at his house claiming that Gabriel is involved in a disappearance. A few weeks earlier, Gabriel had celebrated his company's anniversary at his house. Since then, his best friend Francisco, who was attending, has mysteriously disappeared. The police want Gabriel to cooperate with their investigation. Gabriel has to put his search for the pregnant girl on hold. The detective then begins to search his home. When they come to the back garden, Gabriel suddenly remembers that Juana claimed to have seen blood here. The police immediately phone Juana to come over and cooperate with the investigation. But Juana can't be sure that a murder really happened here. After all, she only heard the sound of a gunshot that night, but she didn't see the murderer or the body. Knowing that Juana was a photographer that night, the detective thinks that she is very likely to have captured some clues. He asks her to give the police her camera, her memory card, and her photos. Juana agrees, but she can't find the memory card. A few days ago, when her grandmother was cleaning her room, she found the memory card on the floor. Thinking it was something unimportant, she casually put it in an inconspicuous place. It seems that this is the key evidence. Unfortunately, neither of them can find it now. After the detective interviews Juana, Gabriel takes her on a tour of the house, enthusiastically sharing his imagination of a happy life here with his children. Their intimate conversation is captured on Camila's phone. As Francisco's wife, Camila has lived in Gabriel's house since her husband disappeared. She has no idea where he's gone. In the midst of her inquiries, Francisco's phone rings from a crack in the couch in Gabriel's study. Camila answers it hastily, but there's no sound from the other end and hangs up in a hurry. It is Gabriel's father-in-law, the murderer, who did this in order to frame him. Gabriel doesn't know why his friend's cell phone is in his study. Just as the detective suspects him and questions him further, Camila calls Paula, who's away at work, and tells her that Juana is at her house, talking intimately with her husband. Paula is insanely jealous, but instead of going home right away, she chooses to continue shooting for the most famous magazine. Camila goes to Juana and warns her to stay away from Gabriel. No self-respecting woman would go near a married man. Humiliated by her, Juana is so embarrassed that she's ready to leave. Gabriel stops her anxiously and asks what's happening. He explains that the conflict between himself and his wife has nothing to do with her. Afterwards, he shows concern for her health and the baby in her womb. When he hears that she doesn't want to tell her child's father about it, Gabriel stops pushing her, respects her choice and gives her a hug to comfort her. Gabriel always appears to have a magic touch that can readily lift Juana's spirits and ease her troubles. After she leaves, the detective says goodbye to Gabriel without finding any clear evidence, when suddenly Paula rushes in and yells at Gabriel for being shameless enough to take his mistress home. The detective explains that he's the one who called Juana over to inquire about the disappearance. Then they quickly leave. Gabriel, who has never felt so humiliated, scolds Paula a crazy woman. Camila urges her to calm down. If she wants to save her marriage, she has to do something that will make Gabriel come back to her willingly. Paula suddenly recalls the adoption program. Paula goes to the orphanage and lies to the father that her husband has agreed to adopt a child. She offers to bring a child home to meet him. If they get along well, they can go through the adoption process. Since she doesn't really want a child, let alone care for one, she refuses to bring home a newborn baby, and chooses a 10-year-old boy instead. Gabriel sees that she has ulterior motives. He doesn't want to hurt the innocent boy, so he suppresses his anger. He agrees to let her take the boy home to play. However, Paula has no concern for the boy's safety or well-being. Gabriel warns her to stop using the boy. He deserves a better mother and father than to be here with her putting on a farce. Gabriel can't stand it any longer and leaves the house, rushing to the hospital with his anger. He questions the supervisor about whether the pregnant girl has been found, but he gets no answer. Inwardly depressed, Gabriel calls David, the marketing director, for a drink. He spills out all his frustrations, saying that his values are completely different from Paula's and that his love for her has gradually run out. She goes to her friend's house and confesses that she has a crush on Gabriel. Daniela urges her to come to her senses. After all, Gabriel is married, and her current situation is bad enough. The baby in her womb has yet to find a father. Juana sobs that she will try to restrain her feelings for him. But it's indeed he who has given Juana a lot of courage and understanding, which has led her to make up her mind to give birth to the child. But Juana's family is strongly opposed to her giving birth. Grandma earnestly persuades her not to be impulsive. She hasn't graduated from university yet and has never been in a relationship. There's no need for her to let the child tie her down or even ruin her bright future. However, Juana is firm in her attitude and says that she will be responsible for her own life, since Grandma could raise her mother and uncle all by herself, and her mother could also raise her alone. How could she, as an adult now, fail to do the same? Don't underestimate the bond among women. It's enough to support them through all difficulties and obstacles. Seeing that she is so determined, her family members stop opposing her and instead stand by her side. The whole family starts working hard to earn money for the baby's upbringing. Juana feels embarrassed to sponge off her family at home, so she asks Daniela to help her look for a job. David, who has a crush on Juana, finds out about this. He acknowledges Juana's talent for photography and art and warmly invites Juana to apply for a job at the beer company. But Juana is hesitant. Because David and Daniela both work for Gabriel. She doesn't want to get too involved with Gabriel for fear of becoming obsessed with him. But then she sees her elderly grandmother making pastries day and night to sell them for money. And her unreliable mom is looking for a part-time job. She feels sorry for her and changes her mind. She goes to Gabriel's beer company for an interview. In the end, with her excellent ability, she gets an offer and becomes a graphic designer. Gabriel is surprised and delighted, and sends her his congratulations and encouragement. Camila, the head of public relations, immediately informs it to Paula. She deliberately exaggerates the situation and says that it was Gabriel who arranged for Juana to join the company, with the aim of making it more convenient for them to meet privately. Paula becomes jealous, fearing that Juana might actually steal her husband. So she goes to a private detective to find out Juana's information and address. Juana doesn't know anything about it, and is still in a state of euphoria about her new job. She throws herself into work actively, hoping to win everyone's recognition. However, the news that she spent a night with Gabriel in the company has already been widely spread among the employees. David can't help but ask her if she has a special relationship with Gabriel. Juana senses the hostility in his words, and her secret wish to see Gabriel every day has also been completely exposed by him. All the embarrassment, humiliation and shame flood over her. Juana can't keep her dignity any longer. She sadly packs up her things and gets ready to resign. Infertile CEO learns that his doctor mistakenly injected his sperm sample into a girl. When he sees the face of the impregnated girl on the monitor, he's over the moon. Holy cow, an employee of his company is carrying his baby. Gabriel rushes back to the office, only to learn that Juana is trying to quit. He carefully escorts Juana to a seat and asks her why. Juana confesses that rumors of their affair have been spreading among her coworkers. She has to admit that she has feelings for Gabriel, but it breaks her heart, because she knows that Gabriel is married to another woman. Gabriel is surprised. The woman who accidentally conceived his child is really in love with him. But Juana had made it clear that she didn't want to find the father of her child, and wanted to raise it alone. He's afraid she'll reject him if he tells her the truth. He can't and doesn't dare to respond to her love. All he can say is that all her mixed emotions are due to her pregnancy. Juana thinks Gabriel is rejecting her. Embarrassed, she quickly storms out of the office. All these unexpected events have completely fried Gabriel's brain. He goes to his uncle to counsel him. Gabriel says that whenever he's with Juana, he feels peaceful and that he doesn't have to try to be strong. His uncle reminds him that this feeling goes beyond friendship. Gabriel wants to deny it. Suddenly, the HR informs him that Juana has resigned and left. Gabriel panics and drives to Juana's address immediately. But his wife Paula beat him to it. She finds Juana's house through a private detective. Paula despises the shabby state of Juana's neighborhood. She comes over to Juana's house in a condescending manner. Grandma thinks she's one of Juana's co-workers and invites her in. Juana walks in front of Paula with a lot of trepidation. Paula accuses her of being a gold digger who wants to steal her husband. She warns Juana to get out of Gabriel's life, or else she'll show no mercy. Having no confidence to refute, she says that she has no intention of being a homewrecker. As Paula leaves Juana's house in high spirits, Gabriel shows up. Gabriel asks her what she's doing here. Paula rolls her eyes in anger. She says if she doesn't step in, who knows how long he'll keep making a cuckold of her. Gabriel laughs at her ridiculous conclusion. With nothing between him and Juana now, Paula's already crazy and hysterical. If she knows Juana's carrying his child, who knows what scarier things she'll do. So he hides from her that he's the father of Juana's child. He says he's here as a boss because he doesn't want to lose a good employee. After driving Paula away, Gabriel goes to Juana's house and apologizes. Juana doesn't want her family to know about her entanglement with Gabriel, so she takes him up to the rooftop. He knows he shouldn't be near her, but when he thinks of all the risks she's about to go through to give birth and raise her child, how can he be heartless? He expresses that she holds a special place in his heart and that he doesn't want to lose her. But that only makes it more awkward for Juana. After all, he's a married man and she's a pregnant woman. Gabriel, however, implicitly says that it is the child that connects them. He loves the baby and asks her to let him care for her as a friend. Juana is touched by his sincerity, allowing Gabriel to come closer. She puts his hand on her belly and lets him feel the movement of the baby. Gabriel's heart melts as he longs to be a father. He asks Juana to come back to work and not to give up on her dreams. He promises to keep his distance from her to avoid gossip. Torn between the two, Juana agrees. Gabriel goes home and formally asks Paula for a divorce. Since they are not pursuing the same goals in their marriage, they should just let go and find their own happiness. When he says that, Paula feels guilty. During Gabriel's separation from her, She found her ex-boyfriend and tried to vent her desires and resentment by playing with him. But Paula can't bear to lose the money and fame that Gabriel has brought her. So she refuses to divorce him. To add insult to injury, when Paula comes downstairs, she sees her father cheating with her best friend. Paula is furious and kicks Camila out of her house. However, Camila's greed was also her own undoing. Since her wealthy husband disappeared, Camila, born into poverty, is on the verge of falling out of high society. When Paula's father offers her a tempting olive branch, Camila is disgusted, but in her vanity, she half-heartedly accepts the dirty deal. The next day, Camila stumbles upon a magazine with Juana the Virgin on the cover. Turns out when Juana was telling her friend Daniela about her pregnancy, Daniela's mom overheard. A virgin gets pregnant. Daniela's mom can't believe her ears. Her gossipy side kicks in right away. She shares the news with the neighbors. In the blink of an eye, the whole town knows. Convinced that Juana can work miracles, they jam her doorstep to ask her for a blessing. Reporters are intrigued and can't wait to report the miracle in the papers, but Camila doesn't believe in miracles. Recalling Gabriel's recent attentions to Juana, she deduces the truth. The woman who was inseminated from Gabriel's sample is Juana. Gabriel pleads with her to keep it a secret because he's worried that Juana will run away from him if she learns the truth. The vain Camila tries to take advantage of this and capture the rich Gabriel. Gabriel pushes her away and warns her not to do it. As she is his friend's wife, he forgives her once. Angry, Camila deliberately puts the magazine in the company's coffee room. Soon all the colleagues read it. The gossip and rumors immediately set off a stir in the office. Juana, at the center of the storm, feels helpless and desperate. Meanwhile, Juana's grandmother is concerned when she reads it. Juana's unreliable mom accidentally tells her that Juana likes Gabriel. But Gabriel is already married. Grandma flares up like a volcanote. She would never allow Juana to tread the path of being abandoned by a man like she did. So she immediately goes to Gabriel's office and talks to him. She forces him to stay away from Juana and not play with her feelings. It's Juana's fault that she's in love with him. She'll teach Juana a good lesson. But Gabriel already has a wife, so he shouldn't ruin another girl's life. Gabriel fears to say that Juana is pregnant with his child. He can only say that Juana is the most important person in his life, and that he won't leave her no matter what. He asks her grandma to rest assured. He only thinks of her as a friend and would never hurt her, and that he had officially asked his wife for a divorce. Grandma has always scoffed at men's promises. Juana's mother was deceived by a married man. She believed his lie that he would divorce his wife to be with her. As a result, she was not only cursed out like crazy, but also lost everything. Grandmother asks him, "Will you marry Juana after you get divorced?" Gabriel is dumbfounded right away. He hasn't considered it. Seeing this, Grandma doesn't want to waste more words. She warns him to leave Juana. Then she finds Juana and tries to persuade her to come home. Juana explains that she and Gabriel are just friends. The only thing she cares about here is her work. Grandma says she just asked Gabriel if he'd marry Juana after the divorce. Juana is almost driven crazy. Isn't it forcing her into the embarrassing situation of being a homewrecker? The sound of the two arguing draws Gabriel in. He begs them to come with him to a quiet place to talk it over. But Grandma insists on taking Juana away. Juana resists, seeing Grandma's questioning as a sign of shame and mistrust of her. Seeing that Juana is taking Gabriel's side while talking, Grandma gets so angry that she walks away. Juana is so emotional that she can't catch her breath and rushes out of the company. Gabriel forcefully holds her hand and says he can't watch her risk her life. He has to take care of her. He can't stay away from her. To calm her down, Gabriel takes her to his favorite place in the car. The two of them go to the top of the hill to breathe in the fresh air. Shortly after, torrential rain suddenly pours down from the sky. Gabriel quickly brings her to his farm to shelter from the storm. The two old housekeepers give them a warm welcome. Gabriel lights the fireplace and tells Juana all about his family's happy days when his parents were alive. It warms Juana's heart, who has never known a father's love growing up in a single-parent home. She finally understands why he's so obsessed with having a child and starting a family. She curiously asks for more stories about his family. Gabriel is deeply touched. Beside the fire, two people who are desperate for love and care almost lose control. Thanks to the housekeepers, they don't make a mistake. Juana had intended to leave, but it is raining so hard that the roads are closed and there is no communication. Juana has to stay here for the night. The housekeeper brings Juana into the bedroom to change into dry clothes. These were for Paula, but she never wore them. As the privileged Paula dislikes the countryside, she hardly ever comes here. The bad weather has caused a power outage on the farm. Juana, soaked to the bone, changes into a sexy red dress. Gabriel is completely captivated, his eyes glued to her, unable to look away for even a second. Gabriel compliments her on her beauty, which makes Juana's heart flutter. In the cozy vibe, Juana reveals the secret that she was wrongly injected with sperm by the doctor and has never been in love. The unexpected answer stuns Gabriel, his eyes widen, darting about as his heart pounds. He has never thought that Juana is a virgin. The heartache he feels for her is like the incessant rain, as he deeply senses how hard her life has been. Juana says he came into her life at the same time as the baby in her womb. She's grateful to him. Since learning of his love for children and family, Juana is no longer afraid and full of hope to accept this unexpected child. Gabriel asks her if she wants to find the father of her child. Juana firmly rejects it. She is haunted by her father's and grandfather's abandonment and does not want another man involved in her and her child's life. Gabriel feels guilty and is even more afraid to say that he's the father. He can only restrain his complicated feelings for her. To avoid crossing the line, he and she go back to their separate rooms. However, love will rob you of your sleep. With a heart full of budding love, Juana is unable to fall asleep and takes a candle and goes out of her room. Unexpectedly, Gabriel can't sleep either. Such a pure flower waiting to be picked by a hardworking bee. Juana can't hold back any longer and gently kisses Juana's red lips. But after a moment of losing himself, Gabriel pulls away from her. He sincerely apologizes to Juana, saying that he will first sort out his divorce matters and then start their relationship unencumbered. Juana's restless heart finally calms down with his repeated soothing words. The next morning, Gabriel drives Juana to the gynecology department and finds his friend, asking her to give her a checkup. He stands by Juana's side, staring at the tiny baby leaping from the ultrasound. In an instant, tears of joy blur his vision. For Gabriel, the greatest happiness isn't wealth or power, it's a soulmate wife and lovely kids that he'd give anything for. However, when he shows more concern for her baby than the pregnant woman herself does, Juana is quite puzzled. A female model sneaks into the dressing room with a handsome guy. But before her clothes are off, her husband, who wants a divorce, calls her on the phone. Paula puts her phone aside and indulges in a romantic moment. Unbeknownst to her, her husband, Gabriel, is in the arms of a college girl. After the affair, Paula returns home only to hear the devastating news. Camila points out that Gabriel is spending the night at the farm with Juana. Gabriel is the father of Juana's child, due to a doctor's mix-up in artificial insemination. Paula is worried, fearing that Juana has stolen her husband. The next day, she storms into her husband's company, dressed as a flamboyant lady. While Gabriel is making a speech to the clients, Paula kisses him, staking her claim as his wife. Juana is embarrassed, made to look like a homewrecker by her. Paula then rushes to the orphanage to go through the adoption process without Gabriel's permission. She intends to take the boy home and use him to tether Gabriel, who is eager to become a father, to her side. Thus, she throws the boy a big party, claiming to be helping the orphanage's charity. She even invites Juana to be the photographer and deliberately puts on a show of a happy family of 3 in front of Juana. Gabriel doesn't want to break the boy's heart. For the sake of the orphanage's charity work, he has to go along with Paula's request to take photos for publicity. Looking at the man who took her first kiss last night now being affectionate with his wife, Juana sheds tears. When the others are not around, Paula puts away her hypocrisy and warns Juana to disappear from their world. Juana runs away in disgrace, refusing to communicate with Gabriel. Gabriel, recognizing Paula's scheming, accuses her of being selfish. He claims that he went along with her in today's drama solely to save the children's dignity. His feelings for her have run out. At night, Gabriel sends his housekeeper to deliver the divorce papers to Paula. Paula is going to hell in a handbasket. Paula still refuses to divorce him. Gabriel wanted to give her some face. However, seeing her so obstinate, he has to present the evidence of her infidelity. He'd already seen Paula cheating on him with another man on Villa's camera. But Paula doesn't think she's at fault. She thinks Juana's the one who broke up her marriage. She sneaks into her father's room and steals his pistol. She hides it in her bag and goes to the beer company to get revenge on Juana. But it is murder, and she's a little afraid to commit it. Juana promises she'll leave them, but Paula doesn't believe her. Just as she's about to pull out the pistol, her brother stops her and drags her away. Rogelio scolds Paula for her stupidity. Once she fires it and commits murder, she and her family will be completely ruined. However, Paula can't listen to any advice now and is only focused on getting her husband back. Her brother has no choice but to forcibly take her home. Juana is tired of being misunderstood and gossiped about. If she doesn't leave Gabriel, she's bound to get into more trouble. So she goes to the HR manager and resigns. Meanwhile, Rogelio runs to Gabriel's office and accuses him of being cold and superficial. If Gabriel hadn't dumped Paula, she wouldn't have gone crazy and tried to shoot Juana. Gabriel becomes extremely worried and runs to find Juana. He doesn't breathe a sigh of relief until he makes sure that Juana is safe and sound. He wants to tell her that he's the father of her child. However, there is an emergency at work that Gabriel needs to attend to immediately. Gabriel asks her to meet him this afternoon. He has something very important to tell her. Seeing this, Camila calls Paula and suggests that she go to Juana. All Paula has to do is distort the facts and tell a different version of the story, and everything will change. In the afternoon, Paula finds Juana before Gabriel arrives. Then Paula reveals the whole story that Gabriel arranged for surrogacy, but the doctor made a mistake which led to Juana's pregnancy. Juana is stunned. Paula feels elated and continues to embellish the story. Gabriel wants to divorce me because I failed to give him a child. He is a selfish man and only wants an heir. The only reason he is interested in you is that you are pregnant with his child. Once your child is born, Gabriel will take your child away and drive you out. Juana suppresses her heartbreak and goes to the hospital to ask the supervisor for the truth about artificial insemination. After getting a definite answer from him, Juana feels deeply deceived, fearing that she may choose to abort. The supervisor says that this is the only child Gabriel will ever have and pleads with Juana to deliver it to him. Juana immediately explodes. I'm not a baby-making machine. The child is mine alone. You have no right to give my child to someone else. On the other hand, after finishing his work, Gabriel goes to meet Juana at a brisk pace. But instead of meeting her, Paula throws water in his face. Paula confesses that she's already told Juana the truth. If all he cares about is the baby, don't blame her for being heartless. Worried that she's hurting Juana, Gabriel chases her all the way to ask where Juana is. Paula is furious and drives off in a hurry. Seeing that she had been drinking, Gabriel drives after her, worried that she might be in danger. The estranged couple are chasing each other's cars along the winding road. Suddenly, a car comes into the opposite lane. Paula steers hard to avoid it, but she loses control of the car and rolls off a cliff. Gabriel hurries down the mountain to save her. However, Paula bumps her head and loses consciousness. Gabriel calls for an ambulance and follows the paramedics to take Paula to the hospital. After 10 hours of rescue, Paula finally wakes up. But she suffers a short-term memory loss due to the impact on her brain. So Paula's memory is still stuck in the period when she and Gabriel were just married. She thinks she has been hospitalized because she failed to get pregnant again. Seeing her in pain, Gabriel can't bear to say anything harsh. He holds her hand to give her some comfort. Meanwhile, David, who has a crush on Juana, learns that Juana has quit her job and goes to her home to ask her why. Juana sadly tells the truth about everything she knows. Not only that, but she feels sorry for Paula, thinking that she was dumped by Gabriel because she couldn't have a baby. David goes to the hospital and accuses Gabriel of being a scumbag and hurting both women. He says that Juana already knows that Gabriel is the father of her baby. She never wants to see Gabriel again in her life. Gabriel gets scared that Juana will leave him. After confirming that Paula's life is not in danger, Gabriel urgently leaves the hospital to find Juana. The amnesiac Paula is puzzled as to why her husband is so cold to her. She asks her mother if he has found out that she is taking birth control pills and doesn't want to get pregnant. This secret happens to be overheard by Camila. Gabriel goes to Juana's house and tries to explain everything to her. Her family then realizes that he is the sperm donor and the father of Juana's baby. They accuse Gabriel of being a selfish, hypocritical man. His wife is in the hospital and he's still pestering other women. They stop him from going near Juana. Gabriel yells and pleads with Juana to give him a chance to explain himself. But Juana just thinks he's a liar and doesn't want to talk to him. So several men drag Gabriel out, handcuff him and take him to the police station to calm down. Family and friends are worried that Gabriel will really take her baby. After all, he's rich and powerful. They can't beat him in a lawsuit. In order to protect her baby, Juana decides to leave the city and go to a place where Gabriel can't find her. The next morning, Juana says goodbye to her family and friends and plans to run away. To everyone's surprise, Gabriel comes back. He says that if Juana doesn't talk to him, he'll come here every day. To avoid harassment of her family, Juana agrees to have a private talk with him. Gabriel confesses his love to her, saying that he fell in love with her the first time he saw her. He isn't interested in her just because she's carrying his child. Who would believe such words from a married man who abandons his wife? Anyway, neither Juana nor I believe it. Gabriel is involuntarily compelled to kiss her, yet she thrusts him aside. Worried that Gabriel will take her baby from her, she asks him if he can stay away from her child. Gabriel, who longs to be a father, can't make that promise. But as far as Juana is concerned, he's using her to give birth. Juana feels that she has been tricked and angrily drives him away. Desperate, Gabriel goes to the hospital to see Paula. Paula, still in the throes of her newfound love for him, pouts to him that she doesn't want to be hospitalized. With the doctor's permission, Paula is discharged and returns to Gabriel's villa. Paula senses that Gabriel has been distant lately. She thinks he's upset that she failed to conceive. So she pleases him by saying that when she recovers, she will go to the hospital again for artificial insemination. Seeing her poor health, Gabriel brings Paula's mother to the villa to take care of her. When she recovers, he'll move forward with the divorce. Misfortunes never come singly. While Gabriel's emotional life is in a total mess, his company is in the midst of a major crisis as well. His father-in-law, in order to oust him and take over his company, had bacteria added to the beer. Fortunately, the batch of polluted beer was detected before leaving the factory and didn't go on the market. However, this negative news was deliberately leaked to the media by Rogelio. Affected by this, the company's stock has plummeted and it is facing a bankruptcy predicament. Gabriel calls an emergency shareholders meeting. In order to save the company, Gabriel plans to push for a merger between his company and that of a Spanish investor. Rogelio bribes the other shareholders to vote against the merger. However, Camila, who owns a stake in her missing husband, betrays Rogelio and votes in favor of the merger, reversing Gabriel's original defeat. Camila hides at her mother's house in the countryside, fearing reprisals. However, the hitman hired by Rogelio tracks her down and takes her back. Rogelio is furious and punishes Camila severely. He threatens Camila to cooperate with him and stay with him, or he'll put her in jail and destroy her brother. It turns out that years ago, Camila's own father committed an unforgivable crime against her. In self-defense, Camila pulled the trigger on him. And then her brother took the fall for her and went to prison. But what enrages him even more is that Camila's heart doesn't belong to him. He discovers a photo hidden in the red underpants in Camila's suitcase. It's Camila's photoshopped wedding photo with Gabriel. Rogelio finally understands why Camila betrayed him. Because she loves Gabriel. Plus, remembering how much his daughter has suffered because of Gabriel, Rogelio can't take it anymore. Rogelio calls the assassin and decides to eliminate Gabriel once and for all. Meanwhile, David approaches Juana and says he has a way to keep Gabriel away from her baby. Back then, the nurse destroyed Juana's file for fear of liability. So there's no evidence that Juana was artificially inseminated. David asks Juana to marry him. In this way, he could claim to be the father of her baby, raise the child together with her, and strive for the custody. Then Gabriel won't be able to keep the baby. To ascertain whether this would have legal validity, Juana and David go to consult the company's lawyer. But then Gabriel shows up. Turns out the lawyer had accidentally told Gabriel about David's plans. With the lawyer's strenuous mediation, both parties finally reach an agreement. Gabriel promises not to approach Juana until the child is born, but she cannot deny that he is the biological father of the child. The hitman struts towards the beer magnate, intending to take his life. Just as the trigger is pulled, his love rival pushes him aside and takes the bullet for him. Seeing his bodyguards gather, the hitman gives up and runs away. Luckily, the bullet grazes just above David's heart. But even though he almost died, David wouldn't stop loving Juana. Carrying Gabriel's child, Juana feels a deep sense of remorse. To prevent those around her from being hurt again, Juana chooses to make a clean break with Gabriel. With his wife refusing to grant him a divorce and the love of his life leaving him, Gabriel goes into a frenzy. Unwilling to see him destroy himself, his uncle approaches Juana. To convince her to give Gabriel another chance, Uncle even brings up a religious story. Virgin Juana's pregnancy is seen like that of the Virgin Mary. Coincidentally, in the Bible, it is Archangel Gabriel who announced Mary's pregnancy. Such a miraculous coincidence makes Juana, a devout believer, relent. Late at night, Juana goes to the farm to talk to Gabriel. Gabriel is so surprised. Juana asks him if he knew that she was pregnant with his child when they first met, and approached her with that in mind. Gabriel claims that he didn't know until the day Juana started working at the company, when he found out from the hospital's surveillance cameras. The reason he didn't tell her the truth right away was because he was afraid of losing her. After all, she had repeatedly said she wanted nothing to do with the father of her child. When Juana is convinced that his feelings for her are genuine, all the estrangement between them dissipates. Just as they kiss each other, Juana pushes him away, saying she doesn't want to be a third wheel. Gabriel explains that it wasn't Juana who really ruined his marriage, but Paula herself. In the afternoon, Camila was worried when she learned of the assassination of Gabriel. She warned him to watch out for his father-in-law's family. Paula had been lying to him all along and never wanted to give him children because she had been secretly taking birth control pills. Gabriel was furious. He asked his lawyer to draw up formal divorce papers and give them to Paula immediately. After receiving the divorce papers, the amnesiac Paula remembered everything. Jealousy and reluctance drove her out of her mind. She blamed Juana for everything and shouted like crazy that she wanted to kill Juana. Her father advised her to come to her senses. If she signed the divorce papers, she might get half of Gabriel's fortune. But Paula's only concern was to get Gabriel back, not the money. Paula goes to Camila and scolds her. If you hadn't said I was taking birth control pills, Gabriel wouldn't have left me for good. Seducing my father wasn't enough. You tried to take Gabriel away from me. After venting her anger, Paula finally calms down. She threatens Camila to help her destroy Juana, or she'll make her pay. Camila has no choice but to go back to her country neighborhood and find a vicious gangster. She asks him to get rid of Juana. Soon after, the gangster gathers his two buddies and discusses the details of the operation with Paula. Paula gives them $1 million down payment. At midnight, the gangsters sneak into Juana's backyard. 3 masked men seize Juana and carry her to the rooftop. Juana resists so fiercely that she knocks over a nearby vase. The loud cracking sound wakes up her family. They miss the best opportunity to take Juana away, so they push her down the stairs. By the time her family comes out, Juana has already fainted. They immediately call the ambulance and send Juana to the hospital. Fortunately, Juana only suffers a broken arm and her baby is not affected. Gabriel rushes to the hospital when he receives the news, but Grandma wants to kick him out. Ever since he came into Juana's life, she's been humiliated and hurt. It's too dangerous to be with a man like that. Gabriel feels terrible, but he'll never leave the love of his life and his child. After Juana's family vent their feelings, Gabriel enters the ward with an anxious heart. Seeing her in pain, Gabriel is both heartbroken and remorseful. He vows that he will surely catch those culprits and makes them pay. On the other hand, Paula and Camila drive to Juana's house. Seeing that Juana's house is surrounded by cops, Paula is very satisfied, thinking that Juana is finally dead. However, the police soon find the 3 gangsters after checking the security cameras and arrest them. Scared, Paula turns to her father for help. Fearing that his daughter will be convicted, Rogelio finds a way to divert the police's attention. So Rogelio orders his men to dig up the corpse of Francisco, whom he killed 2 months ago. They move it to Gabriel's farm and bury it there in secret. Then he bribes the sheriff and prison guards to eliminate the 3 gangsters in case they turn on Paula. The detective senses something's wrong and tries to access the security cameras in the cell. But for some reason, it's not working. Nothing's being captured. Besides, the sheriff warns him not to look into it anymore. Considering the recent events, the detective senses that someone in a position of power is deliberately targeting Gabriel. It's a dangerous situation for Gabriel, so he advises Gabriel to leave the country and seek refuge. Gabriel deduces that Paula and her family are behind this. He storms onto the set of a magazine shoot and accuses Paula of the crime, but he has no evidence to put her behind bars. To prevent them from harming Juana again, he plans to take Juana to California to give birth. However, on the very day when they are about to leave, the sheriff leads a team and digs up Francisco's body from his farm. Then the detective is ordered to search Gabriel's office. They soon find the gun used to kill Francisco behind a bookshelf. Turns out Rogelio had bribed the janitor to hide the gun here to frame Gabriel. With all the evidence of the murder, the police have officially issued a wanted order for Gabriel and are conducting a citywide manhunt. Gabriel is not at ease about leaving Juana alone, so he drives her to a remote mountainous area. Juana rents a villa under a false name and lives happily with him. As night falls, a tense atmosphere of a desperate escape pervades between them, much like Bonnie and Clyde. Juana patiently soothes him again and again. They both open up to each other completely and intimately, losing themselves in a profound connection. The next morning, staring at Juana's face, a flood of remorse and gratitude wells up within him. When Juana wakes up, he puts aside all his worries and anxieties, leads Juana to the back of the mountain. He takes out the ring that he has prepared for a long time, gets down on one knee and proposes to her. Surprised and delighted, Juana immediately blurts out yes. They hide out in the remote mountains, thinking they'll be able to have more fun. But their utopia is shattered by the evening news on TV. Paula accuses Gabriel, in front of the whole country, of being an abuser. Not only did he kill his friend, but he forced her to have a baby and undergo artificial insemination. What Gabriel can't stand is that Paula says that Juana is his accomplice and killed his friend with him. Gabriel is reluctant to leave Juana. But if he doesn't solve the problem, Juana and his son will have to hide and be in danger for the rest of their lives. He's determined to go back tomorrow and cooperate with the police. He'll try to clear his name as soon as possible. He begs Juana to take care of herself and her child. Early the next morning, Gabriel calls the detective and asks for his help. By the way, Juana's mom is here because she's fallen head over heels in love with the detective. The detective says all the evidence points to Gabriel. Until he can prove his innocence, he'll be held in jail. Juana is terribly worried and keeps telling him to take good care of himself. Gabriel tells her to take care of her pregnancy, promising that he'll come to her once he clears his name. After making all the arrangements, Gabriel gets in the detective's car and goes to the police station. The sheriff puts him in jail without hesitation and refuses to release him on bail. Meanwhile, Juana returns home to stay with her family. Paula visits Gabriel in jail. She claims that if he forgets about Juana and comes back to her, she'll get him out of jail. Gabriel has never seen such a brazen woman before. He yanks her by her ponytail. Paula swallows the insult silently and storms off in a fit of rage. During the days apart from the beloved, Gabriel actively cooperates with the detective in the investigation. Juana's belly is gently expanding day by day. 4 months later, during lunch, Juana's water suddenly breaks. Her family rushes her to the hospital. After an agonizing labor, the much-anticipated baby boy has finally come to the world. However, Paula and her father aren't happy about the baby. After all, he is Gabriel's biological son, the rightful heir. Rogelio had gone to great lengths to put Gabriel in jail and take his job as president. He won't tolerate this boy ruining his big career. While Juana is sleeping, he sneaks into the ward with Paula and tries to steal the baby. However, the baby's cries wakes Juana. She pleads incoherently with them not to hurt her child. Rogelio gives Juana a huge check and asks her to take the baby and leave Gabriel. Just when she doesn't know what to do, her mother shows up just in time. Jenny yells the nurse's name and picks up her phone to call the police. Rogelio is afraid to make a big deal out of it, so he has to ask Paula to return the baby to them. Juana angrily tears up the check and warns them not to appear in front of her again. On the other hand, the detective goes to Francisco's mother. He tells her everything he suspects about Rogelio's murder of Francisco and the damage done to the beer company. Francisco's mother is convinced that Rogelio killed her son. Furious, she refuses to sell Rogelio the company's stock, saying she'll sell it to Gabriel. This will cause Rogelio to lose his status as the largest shareholder and his control of the company. But if Gabriel disappears, there's no one left to destabilize him. Rogelio bribes a criminal to assassinate Gabriel in prison. Thanks to Gabriel's sharp reflexes, he counteracts the criminal and escapes from death. The criminal is transferred to the police station for questioning. 3 months later, Gabriel gets a chance to go out because of his good behavior in prison. He runs into the church, dressed in a nice suit. There's a christening for his son. Gabriel can't wait to kiss Juana and carefully pick up his son. This little bundle of chubby cuteness completely melts Gabriel's heart. In an instant, all the hardship and suffering is replaced by joy. In the presence of the priest, Gabriel gives his son his father's name. This not only represented the honor of his family, but also his deep love for his son. However, 3 seconds after the baptism, the detective comes to take Gabriel away. Juana holds on to Gabriel and won't let go. Gabriel tells her to be patient. His court date is coming up soon. His defense attorney has prepared enough evidence for him. He promises to return to them. Yet the cunning Rogelio can't let Gabriel off the hook. Before the trial, he bribes a large number of the company's employees to testify that on the day Francisco died, they saw Gabriel and Francisco in a heated argument in the office. Gabriel can't prove his innocence with any direct evidence. The trial is at a standstill. After pondering the matter, the judge adjourns the trial, saying that the second trial will be held tomorrow. Rogelio's son, Manuel, believes he is blinded by power and lust. The righteous Manuel doesn't want his father and sister to commit further murders and crimes. So he joins forces with Gabriel's cronies and Camila to find evidence of Rogelio's embezzlement of the company and other crimes. Unfortunately, Rogelio discovers his betrayal. He catches his son in a rage and punishes him severely. All the while, Camila is trying to save her beloved Gabriel. Camila goes to her brother, who's in jail for her, and asks him to take care of Gabriel. That's why when Gabriel is targeted by the most vicious criminals, Camila's brother always stands up and protects him. Rogelio's informant in the prison tells him about it. Seeing the woman he fancies remaining reluctant to submit to him, Rogelio is driven to the brink of madness. He imprisons Camila with his son and punishes the 2 traitors. A just cause enjoys abundant support while an unjust cause finds little support. After hearing about the trial from David, Juana suddenly remembers that she heard a gunshot in Gabriel's back garden. Although she didn't witness the murder, in her extreme panic, she pressed the shutter of her camera. She might have taken a few photos of the crime scene. Juana immediately searches the house for her camera's memory card. After several rounds of thorough searches, she finally finds it and discovers 2 photos of the crime scene. One clear photo only captures the bloodstains, while the other crucial photo is blurry. Juana promptly hands the photos over to the detective. The detective seeks out a digital expert and implores him to repair the photo's pixels and image quality. On the second day of the trial, Juana attends as a witness and recounts truthfully what she saw and heard on the night when Francisco died. However, the opposing lawyer repeatedly alludes to Juana's situation of having a baby out of wedlock, subtly insinuating that her character is questionable, and he also casts doubt on the testimony she has provided. Gabriel can't bear to see Juana being humiliated and tries to bring the court hearing to an end. The lawyer quickly presses him back into his seat. While both sides are arguing, the detective arrives at the trial with a restored photo. Thankfully, the photo clearly captures Paula's father dragging Francisco's corpse away. Gabriel finally clears his name and embraces Juana with emotion. The sheriff calls Rogelio in a hurry to tell him that the photo of his murder has been revealed and tells him to run. Paula, hiding in the shadows, realizes what a crime her father has committed. She urges him to stop and release her brother and Camila. However, the frenzied Rogelio even ties up his own daughter. He uses the three of them as shields and threatens the police to let him go. Camila takes advantage of the chaos to grab Rogelio's gun and aims it at him. The brother and sister walk towards the police under Camila's cover. Just as Camila looks back at them, Rogelio snatches the gun from her and eliminates her. The police fire back and arrest Rogelio. What's worse for him is that he runs into Camila's brother while he's in jail. Oops, guilt has long arms. On the other hand, Paula is arrested and imprisoned for having hired someone to assassinate Juana. In the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed and Gabriel's company is thriving. This seemingly delicate girl has not only given birth to his child but also become a lucky charm to him. Juana hasn't given up on self-improvement either. She goes back to university and completes her studies. On the day of the graduation ceremony, all her family members come to offer their congratulations. Without a doubt, Juana, who has achieved both career success and a fulfilling love life, is the happiest person. By marrying Juana, Gabriel has gained a group of really lovely relatives. They, with the tender essence of love, have metamorphosed a dreadful medical malpractice into a charming love fable. This is Maroon Recap. If there's a movie you'd like to watch, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Let's watch a movie together and experience something different. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.